Hi friends, I'm Jolene with Sanctuary Gardens, and today I'm going to be planting some tomatoes, and I wanted to bring you along and kind of show you how I do it and this awesome new trellis system that we're going to try out this year. So this particular trellis here is 8 feet tall, and our bed is 9 feet long, and then those furring strips are about 18 inches wide. When we put this up, we had decided that we were going to do 8 feet, and at the time I didn't think much about it, but then once Will put it up, I was like, wow, that's really tall. And I can't actually reach it without a ladder, which I have right there. So I'm going to try it out this year, see how high the tomatoes go up the string, and if we don't really get tomatoes growing way up high, then I'll probably next year ask Will to lop off the last foot and have it more like 7 feet so I can access it without having to get on the ladder, which is kind of annoying. I've been watching the temperatures at night for the last couple weeks, kind of just waiting until the day I can plant my tomatoes outside. My tomatoes are fully hardened off, they're ready to be in the ground. They look maybe a little yellow just because they are just so ready to be out of these little pots. But I always wait until I look at the temperature, and for the next 10-day forecast, I see that at night it's going to be 40 to 50 degrees. I don't want it to really dip down into the 30s at all. And so as soon as I see that we're going to be above 40 degrees consistently at night, getting those tomatoes in the ground. And today is planting day, which is always a great day. Will and I created this awesome new trellis system that I'm excited to try this year. I found this online through I want to say it's California Garden TV. I'll link it below. He goes into a lot more detail about how to build this trellis and how to prune tomatoes and all of that. But I got this idea from him and thought, hey, I really want to try this in my garden. This is traditionally how commercial growers grow tomatoes, up those strings, pruning the plants, keeping them nice and trim, so that way they can get a lot more tomatoes in the same amount of space. With my old system, with the cages the traditional cages that you put around the tomato plants, I would have gotten about 4 plants in this bed, spacing them about 2 to 3 feet apart, which is pretty typical for what seed packets say to do. And if that's the system you're doing, kind of letting them be a little bigger and sprawled, then 2 to 3 feet is ideal. But with this system, I'm getting 12 tomato plants in this bed, where before I would have gotten 4. So I'm getting 3 times the amount of tomato plants in this bed doing this particular trellising system. So this particular trellising system really only works if you have indeterminate tomatoes. Now, the difference between determinate and indeterminate tomatoes, just like the name says, have a determined amount of time that they will grow and produce fruit. And they put out a big bunch of fruit out all at once, and then the plant stops producing. So most tomato varieties aren't determinate, they're actually indeterminate. Unless most of the time, if they don't say what they are, they're probably indeterminate. Indeterminate tomatoes are just that. They don't have any determined amount of time. They will continue to grow and produce fruit until you get a killing frost. So that's what I have, is all of these are heirloom varieties and they're indeterminate tomatoes, and they're going to continue growing up that string until either I chop them off at the top, which I will probably do, or if they'll just keep growing until you get a killing frost. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the string along the top there and let it dangle down so I know exactly where to plant my tomato plants. So what am I planting? I have a few different ones. I'm planting a pineapple beefsteak tomato. That's an exciting one. Over there I have just a general red beefsteak tomato as well. Most of these are paste tomatoes because I'm really hoping to do a lot of canning this year. Coronavirus really showed me how much I use canned tomatoes, and they were like all out this year. And then I'm doing, Amish paste tomato. Oh, and then I'm doing a cherry tomato as well. So I got about 4 different types of tomatoes that I'm planting. Majority of them are paste tomatoes. So there's a couple tricks when planting tomatoes, and I know a lot of people do this, but some people may not know about it, so I want to make sure that you know how it works. So when it comes to planting tomatoes, if you look closely at the stem of a tomato plant, you'll see little tiny hairs growing along the stem of the tomato plant. What those are is each of those hairs is a potential to become root. So if those little hairs come in contact with soil, they're going to root. Tomatoes traditionally, if you don't prune them up or have cages around them, they will sprawl along the ground forever. It's like a vine, and anywhere where the stem with those little hairs touches the ground, it will produce more roots. And so you just imagine how far these tomato plants could go if they were just allowed to roam free. So we're going to take advantage of all those little hairs today, and basically I'm going to plant this tomato plant really deep, so that way all those hairs have a chance to get in contact with soil and create a stronger root system than if you just did it with that much. So what I'm gonna do is basically pick off all the lower leaves. Could probably do one more, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it. So I have about that much more of the stem I'm going to plant in the ground now to create a really strong root system. So when it comes to fertilizer, I don't have anything special. I use this Job's organic vegetable and tomato fertilizer. A lot of people recommend rock phosphate, and I'll be using that next year, but this is all I had on hand. So I'm just going to put a couple tablespoons in the bottom there. There we go, just to give those roots a really good start. I'm also going to place, this is the string where the tomatoes is going to grow up. I'm going to place that right down in there. Squeeze the tomato plant. Nice, look at that root system. Beautiful. Always so proud of myself. Okay. Nice. I'm going to just twist it around there. So you can see I got all my plants done here. I want to show an up close of how this works. Let me show you nice and close here. So I put the string, when I planted the plant, I put the string down under that, set the plant on top, and then I just wrapped the plant around this just a couple times. You can see here. So that way the plant will be encouraged to grow up the string. The other option is you can get shade cloth staples. I made some. That looks similar to this. The other option is you can put that right on each side, tie the string to that, and then go up. That's another option you can do. I'm going to leave that in there actually just for extra stability to hold that string up against the plant there. As the plants grow up and get bigger and the stems get thicker and stronger, I'm going to be using these clipping devices to keep them connected to the string. So what I do is just something like that, but I don't need it right now, but I'll be using that later. I'll link these down below so you can know where to get these. So I'm really excited to see how this ends up working. As I go along, I'll probably show some different things that I'll do. I'll show how I prune my tomatoes to make sure that they don't spread out, but instead grow up. And I hope that even if you're not doing a tomato trellising system like this, that you at least know now the best way for planting tomato plants, making sure you're planting those really deep so they have a really great root system. Now you know how we're going to get 3 times the amount of tomato plants in the same space that we used to plant before. Make sure to subscribe down below so that way you can check for future videos as I progress with this. You can see how the progress goes. Also, if you've ever used a tomato trellising system like this, leave a comment down below. Let me know how it worked for you. Thanks for joining me today. I hope it was helpful. Go out and grow something. God bless.